You ready?
I'm ready.
Yep, we're ready. All right, we're here.
I'm safe from the coronavirus, everyone.
Yeah, I believe we are at the safest place in Floyd County right now, down here at City Perk, which has been freshly sanitized from head to toe.
Mm-hmm. Every single nook and cranny.
Yeah. Yeah. From what'd you say? From crevice to crack, we're sanitized down here at City Perk. Yep, you're gonna hear a little echo right now.
Not now. It's gone.
Not now.
Echo's
We're
gone.
good. Okay.
Hello,
just checking.
everyone.
Yeah. You know, we say that we're in the safest place, but you're wearing a Death Trooper mask, so I feel a little unsafe around you right now.
Well, I don't have any blasters.
Yeah. But who would shoot first? I mean, probably you.
Han.
Han? Yeah.
Han shoots first always.
Han always shoots first. And that's what Leia said.
Can't hardly. Han always goes first.
That's right.
It's no fair.
So how you doing, folks out there? I hope you're all marked safe from Corona.
Yeah. I mean, it really is crazy how much the coronavirus has blown up.
Yeah, and our jokes right now probably don't help it. At least mine don't. You're not really saying anything.
When I was in North Carolina, they memed a hurricane away, so it's okay.
Yeah. I mean, it's better than what the government's plan was this past time, which was to nuke it away.
Yeah, that's true. If we put a nuke in the middle, the eye of the hurricane, will it stop it?
I feel like that is like a Superman idea. Like that's like the plot of like what would have been the fifth Christopher Reeve Superman movie. Like we're gonna nuke a hurricane.
This is how you get Sharknadoes.
It is how you get Sharknadoes. That's exactly right. You know, people don't think about these ramifications.
No, you nuke a hurricane, you get. I guess you could have like a sharkicane.
A Sharkicane.
Sounds like Sharkicon.
Shakan me.
Oh,
Corey Grimm is watching you.
Yeah, he's.
Yeah.
I think I may have just heard him pull in.
The door's locked.
The door's locked.
Okay. Oh.
The other door's open.
Corey, if you're still watching, go to the other door. Did Corey go to the other door?
Corey's
I can't look behind
hyperdrive was busted in his vehicle, so he couldn't hit hyperspace and make it here.
Yeah, he had to push his vehicle 12 parsecs.
Don't blame me. Blame Perry County.
Don't we always?
I mean, at this point, yeah, it's all Perry County's fault.
Yeah. Not that we don't love Perry County.
Yeah, we got it. Yep.
Pinky's out to Perry County.
I'm drinking cold brew today, so I don't have a mug.
Corey's got that high quality vitamin water.
But I do
Vitamin.
have my nice
Vitamin water.
Venom.
tumbler.
I don't know how well
It is
they've
not
said.
filled with the symbiote though, so
I mean, that's a shame because the symbiote
I
is so
would-
handy.
I would love to have the symbiote. Honestly, that would be like the coolest thing ever.
That would be the greatest, just like clothing. Like you don't have to worry about clothes ever again.
No, just. What do I want to wear today?
Yeah.
Yep.
That's why anytime in the comics now, whenever like Eddie loses the symbiote, he's just in his boxer shorts.
Yeah, I mean, when Flash had him after he lost his legs, the Venom was his legs.
Yeah, yeah. Which is super handy.
Yeah, it's actually one of my favorite renditions of Venom too. You can move it.
He was pretty great.
The
I,
Agent Venom.
They should do more, honestly, with. Granted, he's dead in the comics now. Spoiler. Sorry.
Spoiler.
Yeah.
Hope you were ready.
Yeah. We give spoilers after the fact on here.
It's true. It's the best spoilers.
Yeah.
Unless you're watching the video in reverse, and then.
Then it's an incredible comeback story.
Indeed. So we were talking about the coronavirus, Corey, like right when you were pulling in.
Oh yeah, I was actually, kind of had it going, listening to it in the car, and I was
Yeah.
like, oh man, coronavirus. And, it's like everywhere you go, like it's like trying to escape R. Kelly. I Believe I Can Fly. When that song came out, it's like everywhere you go, it's there. It's there. There is no escape.
Speaking of which, I actually watched Space Jam the other day.
Yeah, Space Jam is on Netflix.
Yeah, it's on Netflix.
It's on
It's on
Netflix.
Netflix now?
Yes, it is. That's why I watched on
Nice.
Netflix.
Anybody want to go back to the 90s? Netflix.
Should have 90s Netflix night. The coronavirus, though, has caused a lot of mass panic. Speaking of which, the E3 is canceled this year, and that's huge because that's when a lot of your video game like trailers and everything comes out, so that everyone knows about them. Now they're going to have to figure out some other way. I guess kind of Nintendo has a heads up on this because
Oh, yeah.
Nintendo never actually participates in coming to E3. They just have directs that they present at E3. So now they already have these pre-recorded directs, and they're just going to be like, hey, here you go. This is the games they're coming out with. Enjoy them.
Yeah, it's interesting too. I saw today a rumor that this year would have been the first time that Warner Brothers Interactive would have attended as well.
Of course, anything with Warner Brothers is going to go downhill now, though.
Of course. And they were going to make announcements about Batman, Harry Potter, and the new Rocksteady games coming.
Okay. Well,
So I don't know if they're going to be doing a separate event now, possibly in the same way that Sony and Nintendo do.
yeah, they're going to have to do something if they want to like show those off, since there's not a huge gathering anymore of everyone. But yeah, it's a big loss for the video game community. What are your all's thoughts on that? Do you think this is going to affect the sale of games or consoles, or do you think it's going to push Sony farther? Actually, they weren't attending, so never mind. It's not going to push them farther into the hole.
Yeah, I think the big three, they're probably fine. I don't like Microsoft, Sony, and Nintendo.
Oh, yeah.
They have their own events anyway now. It's not going to be that much of an issue. I think it's more going to affect like the independent developers.
Right.
Yeah, those indie developers, they don't have quite the capital to invest in advertising as, some of your bigger, gaming companies. So I feel like, yeah, the indie developers are like, the small, just different groups that come to these things. They're really going to be hurt by not being able to attend.
Right.
Because I would imagine with some of those, it's like a lifeline for them. It's like we wait all year long for this, and this is where we're going to get our gain back from all our resources and expenses.
I kind of wonder if they do get it. Like, I'm sure that they have to pay something to have a booth or whatever set up, and I would kind of wonder if they get any of that back for since it's canceled, or if they're
Sure, I mean maybe.
Because I know a lot of things you do is just like it's a no money back guarantee or that, or like a it's a deposit, a
Non-refundable deposit.
non-refundable deposit.
Yeah.
So I kind of wonder if that's the case or if it's refundable or what.
I mean, I imagine E3 might be a little bit more lenient than the landlord of the local apartment complex. It's like, we'll give you that security deposit back if you clean. That's a lie.
That's a lie.
I mean,
They lied to you.
I would like to think they'd be more lenient about it, but you never know.
That might be how they make their money too.
Oh,
I'm sorry.
You ask 10 people, and I would guarantee none of them tell you I didn't get that back.
That's probably true.
So, moving on, I guess, from E3, I've got a few little Nintendo tidbits to talk about. This one deals with Nintendo and everyone's favorite gaming store, GameStop. Reggie used to be the president of Nintendo of America.
Yep.
He stepped down, he retired from Nintendo of America there last year, and since then he is now actually becoming he's going to be on the board of directors for GameStop. Do you think he might be able to revitalize GameStop the same way he kind of did with Nintendo? Like, I mean, you had so many good consoles that came out. We'll skip over the Wii U because that was just failed marketing. But you had the Wii and the Switch during that 15-year time period that he was there that were huge. Like I said, we'll just skip over the Wii U because, like I said, just failed marketing. Everyone just thought it was like an attachment for the Wii.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that is kind of what it ended up being, too. Like, the overall look of it. It was really a precursor to the Switch. But
Yeah.
that's...
Yeah. I mean, I still have one, and one of my kids have one. It's nifty for the kids. But back to the topic.
Yeah, the main topic that we're talking about.
Do you think he might be able to help GameStop? He knows the market. He knows all that
That's absolutely why I think he'll be able to help, because he knows what people want.
Yeah, I agree. He's definitely better than the hope that they currently have. Going back to our Walmart Amazon topic, I feel like GameStop is in that same rut as Walmart.
Yeah.
That they're trying to implement so many different contingencies to pull themselves out.
And it's like stretching them thin.
Yeah, and it's just like it's fail after fail after fail.
Right.
And, it's really going downhill. Like, GameStop, if they don't do something, I foresee them really going out, like, in the next few years.
Especially with, like, we talked about everything going digital anyhow. It's just like, why would I go to GameStop? Yeah, I might get $13 for my 7 games, but I can just stay at home and download the game for almost the same price. I mean, there's a lot of times where you can get sales on, I'm sure you can on Xbox and PlayStation as well, but I know on Switch you can get, and Steam, you can get big sales on certain games. For Mario Day, the Switch had all of the big Mario games, like 33% off or something like that.
I feel like maybe if, for instance, I mean, this is a stretch, but for instance, there are sites that mostly deal on PC games. Like, you have a Humble Bundle and Green Man Gaming, and there's a couple others. But what they do is they offer digital downloads, and they give you, a key that you can redeem to your Steam library. But they run sales like all the time on just various games. So I feel like maybe, if he could implement something with their website that, they're running sales, you're getting coupon vouchers for so much percentage off games and that kind of stuff, then maybe they could be competitive and make some money that way.
Now, doesn't Steam have, like, GameStop have some stake in Steam?
If they do,
Or did they a few years ago?
Didn't they have their own? They tried to do their own. I can't remember. What was I know Congregate, wasn't it like a game or something like that?
Congregate was a company,
but I know they had a lot at stake with that.
Yeah.
That's something. Go ahead. You two continue discussing.
Congregate back in the day, they were mostly like they were the people that were kind of in the flash game boom. When you would go online and you would play games in your mobile browser and et cetera, like
That makes sense.
Clip.com. Congregate was big into that. And now, if you go through any of the app stores on Apple or Google, they're in the mobile gaming market.
Mm-hmm.
So now they've moved from the flash games in the browsers to mobile gaming. And that's mostly what they do. They're not like a big gaming company and that's, coming out with platformers for like PC and console and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think they have anything dealing with Steam.
I don't think they do either. They mostly deal with like Google and Apple.
Yeah.
One thing that I wonder, what is it that Reggie can bring to the table? Like, understand what he can bring with hardware. Like, he was the one that was, like we talked about, he was behind a lot of the innovative hardware that Nintendo has put out in the past few years, or had something to do with it. At least he was good at promoting it, at the very least. But what can GameStop offer more to its customer base? Like, possibly exclusivity on certain things, possibly exclusive Nintendo titles, possibly Nintendo just becoming strictly sold by GameStop.
See, I don't. That would really restrict the market for Nintendo, and even as good of a relationship Reggie has with Nintendo, I don't think that's something he could pull off.
Yeah.
But I do feel like he may have those connections to bring some more exclusive things to GameStop. I mean, even now pre-ordering certain titles and stuff like that with different companies, with Amazon, with Walmart, with GameStop, you get exclusive, usual in-game items or something like that for certain games. If you could add some more exclusiveness to it, then it would, it'd be worth it. I remember, I've been a pro member at GameStop since I started going to GameStop, and I remember what there used to be I've still got my card. Actually, no, I don't have my card because I lost my wallet.
I've actually got a card. Is very beat up.
Mine was beat up. And
I've got one.
But it seemed like back in the day, you got a lot more with GameStop. It seemed like it was more exclusive. It seemed more
There was value
to being a member at GameStop and everything.
There was, and really in the beginning, before digital craze took over, you got those Game Informers in the mail with the membership, and it was so cool, you know, because it's like really it was hard to look at Game Informer any other way. You go to their website, and it would show you like maybe the first couple pages.
Yeah, but now with Game Informer, like I still get Game Informers, and I enjoy looking at them, but you can get them both digitally now and paper
Yeah.
as well.
And I know that, which I still think it's a thing. Like you rack up points with GameStop,
Yep.
and now
Yeah.
you can redeem them. But I feel like that the amount of points that's required for a lot of things, it's just up there, man. It's like when you go to the arcade, and you're taking your 20,000 tickets to the counter.
Yeah.
You
And,
can get one bouncy ball.
Yeah, they're like here's you like a Tootsie Roll and a clacker, and you're just devastated.
And there's a lot of satisfaction in a Tootsie Roll. I'm just saying.
Well, it depends if it's like those big fat ones that's about that long, maybe.
I mean, I guess like really the answer is that for me, I would say that what needs to happen is that GameStop needs to become more of a destination retailer.
Right.
Like, what good is it if I can find everything that they're selling down at the big box store?
I think that they should try to stay competitive also with like the sales that companies are having. Like if they should, their prices should reflect
Online prices.
Right.
Because if I go to Walmart or GameStop and I see a game for $40, and then I go on eStore or Steam and I see it for $20, guess who's going to buy it for half price?
That's true, and there is a lot of times, especially like Switch, where they run deals, just various sales. You can buy a lot of the games that GameStop has half price
Yeah.
on the Nintendo store.
Yeah.
So there is no just reason why you would buy it there. Really the only thing that they have going for them at GameStop is they sell like the collector figurines and that
Yeah.
kind of stuff. If they didn't have that market, I feel like that they would have sunk.
And
If they
that's
didn't have those exclusives, I think they would have been gone a long time ago.
Yeah, and that's another issue that they're having. A lot of the collectibles that they're selling now that are exclusive, well, just like in general, they've marked up the prices on them considerably. It's been about, I don't know exactly what the percentage would be, but it's been about a $10 increase. Like they were from like a regular retail price.
Gotcha.
Like normally, like you go to anywhere else, Marvel Legends action figure, $20. There was always a markup at GameStop. It was about 23. Now they're doing 30 for a regular size figure.
It really depends on what you buy. For instance, around Valentine's Day, I bought Brandy that Nika toy Splinter,
Yeah.
from the '90s movie.
Yeah.
and it was $25 at GameStop. Now, if you
Yeah.
got online anywhere, it didn't. Even if you went to their website,
Yeah.
that same figure was $49.
Jeez.
Yeah.
So you got a good deal on it then.
Yeah, and they had a couple more. They had like the Shredder, a couple Foot Clans, and
Yeah.
stuff like that. So the fact that they were $25, it was insane to me. I was like, oh man, $25, that's it, and they didn't have any more. So I was like, well, I'll look online and see if I can find the turtles because they didn't have any of the turtles.
Yeah, that's been. I think they're going to be like reissuing them, but the Ninja Turtles franchise itself is just one that's gotten kind of crazy because like that's one of the deals that they had with GameStop was that they're going to sell just the movie-based turtles. And,
Yeah,
like,
the
so
ones
their
from the
characters.
'90s movies.
Yeah,
And they're like crazy detailed, fully articulate.
Yeah.
They're really nice, but
biggest problem with Nika is they're very prone to breakage.
yeah,
Has she taken it out of the box?
no, it's still in the box.
Probably best.
She's gonna leave it in the
Look at
box.
it.
Yeah,
But yeah, GameStop is selling them like half price of anywhere else, just for those particular figures. But I mean, I'm sure that maybe
Yeah.
you can get a better deal at GameStop on some things than others.
yeah,
I guess now that we're done poking and prodding at GameStop, there's
yeah. They've had enough.
Yeah.
It's like, stop, it's already dead.
Quit poking the dead horse. And we were talking about Nintendo. So Nintendo's getting ready to do some collaborations, which one of them I could see, but one of them kind of caught me by surprise. To start off that though, what kind of pants does Mario wear?
Overalls.
Corey?
I mean, I always thought it was overalls.
Some nice dungarees, maybe.
denim.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, yeah.
And I wanted to bring that up because Nintendo, or Mario specifically, is actually going to be doing actually might be Nintendo or Raw. They're doing a collaboration with Levi's.
Yeah.
They're going to be making some Nintendo or Mario Levi's. I would assume they would have to be overalls. But
I mean, what else would you do with them?
I don't know.
It's like he's never gone around just regular britches.
Okay. So you've opened this.
I've opened this.
You've opened this. What is the difference? Because you can actually just buy Levi denim overalls now.
Mhm.
So what's the difference in these Nintendo brand?
Big giant M on them, maybe.
Probably Big John M on them. I mean, it's going to be some kind of marketing, you know.
I mean, is it like
some kind of
big embroidered M,
probably.
like Jinko jeans?
There you go. It's going to be like the Mario Jinko jeans. That's exactly what's going to be.
You
Maybe
heard
the-
it here, guys.
Maybe they're going to run the gamut of stuff with it. Maybe they're going to do like his, like some Luigi, fire flower power white overalls.
Oh, yeah, there you go.
Some red Mario ones.
I mean,
Just owning anything white is just a nightmare. Just to try to
It
get
really
away.
especially if you have children.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't get near me, kids. I have on white.
Don't touch my Luigi overalls.
Yeah.
And then another collaboration, as Kevin has up on the screen here, that they're going to be doing is some Legos. If you notice, it's Doug Bowser is the one that tweeted about this. Doug Bowser is the new president of Nintendo of America, which I think is kind of ironic because his last name is Bowser, and that's literally the name you don't want associated with Nintendo. So
And that was his name before he got on, right?
yeah, that was his
Like,
name
he didn't
before.
change it.
Yep.
That's kind of perfect.
When they were introducing him as though they did have like Bowser coming out like on screen and stuff like that, and he's like,
Yeah.
no, wrong Bowser. Yeah, it's
So, I wonder now that Nintendo is, teaming up with Lego, if maybe there's something going on with Lego. I mean, I don't know their financial situation. Did you ever watch the Netflix series Toys That Made
Toys
Us?
that made it, yeah.
Okay, did you watch the particular Lego episode when
I think I did, but I don't really remember.
things like in the beginning they did really well,
Yeah.
and then the company started going straight downhill because there's other companies that was making a rival product that was
Yeah.
similar and it was cheaper. So then they started teaming up with like different franchises and stuff, trying to make figures, but then they couldn't get their costs down. And it's like Lego within themselves was always in a financial struggle for most of their, franchise career.
Yeah.
And it just makes me wonder if something financially is going on with Lego that they're like, we need a product because our stock is way down.
I don't know because I think Lego's doing quite well. You got all the Lego games that have come out, and those are big hits. Kids love
Yeah.
those games. I love those.
And now the movies,
The
too.
Lego movies, those are doing decently well. Maybe they got such like a high rush from that and everything that they're like, we have to get something. Like
Yeah,
a
they're
collaboration
kind of plateaued out. Now they're like, we have to come up with something else.
right
Yeah.
because
Because it's going to start going downhill if we don't.
let's see, I remember Legos, the big sets and stuff when I was growing up, and that was at a high point, and then it seemed like it went down from there.
Well,
and then the Bionicles came out,
Yeah.
and then
Yeah.
that went back up, and then so
What was really weird about the episode is they said, "Oh, we did this, and we had all these Star Wars Legos and this
Yeah.
and that," but then they said that the thing that they made the most money off of was they went back to basic. They had like the city sets again, where you had
Yeah.
like fire trucks and police cars, and you built skyscrapers and houses and stuff.
Yeah.
And like that was a huge hit. Everybody bought those.
I think that helps, too. Like, there's so many different brands of Lego products because, like, you've got the Harry Potter stuff, you have Star Wars, Batman, Marvel. Sometimes you also just need, like, especially for people who do action figure photography, people who just like building dioramas and building Legos. Like, they just need, like, those regular kind of characters as something that, like, how great is it, like, to have, like, a cityscape to where you can have Batman going across it?
It's
Or you
true.
can have a police station that he's, like, taking Killer Croc and the Joker to. So I think that's what the biggest positive that the cityscape stuff can do is because it adds to the rest of the different worlds of Lego.
Yeah, you could interchange them easily.
Yeah. And Yeah, like what we said too. Like they've been doing this for so many years. They've built up so many different brands within Lego itself that it just kind of makes sense to also have like probably I would say Mario is the biggest video game brand. Like it's at least the most recognizable.
I would say, and even going back to their last podcast, the Switch outsold most consoles
Yeah.
by like what 100,000 units.
It was like this March was the other day was its anniversary, 3-year anniversary, and it's selling a lot. Like it's selling like wildfire still, especially since they introduced the Switch Lite, and
And I feel like, I would say Mario is widely recognized because it's just hitting such a wide, broad audience. Everybody from kids to adults.
Right.
So it's not aimed at a certain age group or
It's-
group of people. It's just everybody.
everyone
Yeah.
everyone knows
And then
Mario.
everybody, Nintendo's pretty much made their name that, they're just a all-around good console that's good family fun, and a lot of people buy them just for that.
Yeah.
It's not even that they're trying to compete in the market. It's just that they know that they can bring a product to the table that other consoles struggle with.
Right.
Right.
Like we were last podcast, we were talking about the Switch versus or any Nintendo handheld compared to like the Vita or the PSP. Those are good consoles, but they just could not compete.
Yeah, very, very hard to, compete against Nintendo.
Yeah.
Nintendo, they had so many good games for like their DS, their 3DS,
Still, you have a huge library of games on those. Even though those are essentially dead consoles now, there's still such a huge library for those that if you still want one and just to pick up a lot of the older games, it's a great console to do that on. And I'm sure eventually it'll be like one of those retro consoles that everyone will want, and it's like, oh yeah, I bought this one with this gigantic catalog of games.
Yeah. See, what would be interesting in that, I feel like to get like the big catalog of games, you would have to either one will have to come with like the micro SD card full of them on it, or it'll have to be something the size of the Wii U. Which was really going to be ironic when they do like the Wii U Classic.
I think that's a classic they'll probably skip over, honestly.
More than likely.
I want a Dreamcast.
Dreamcast.
I love Dreamcast.
The Dreamcast was great.
Are you dreaming of a Dreamcast classic?
I was dreaming of a Dreamcast. Honestly, it was a system way ahead of its time.
Honestly, the system that I never owned, well, one was a Dreamcast. I never had a Dreamcast. But I never
you
had.
missed out, man.
I never had a GameCube. I played on GameCube a
Really?
lot, but I never had a
GameCube was amazing, too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I played on them a lot. I know my sister; she had a GameCube, and I always liked watching her play. I know they played. Let's see. Of course, all the Metroid games on it and everything. Smash Brothers was great on it. I'm a huge Smash fan anyhow. And that's, talking about the GameCube controllers, everyone still loves the GameCube controllers for
Yeah.
Switch. You can get those, for Smash, and you can get those to play Smash Brothers with.
What was really nice is that when they did the Wii, they allowed it to where you could plug in the GameCube controller.
Yep.
Yeah.
Or like any controller. Well, they had one specifically for that. But
you know it's a good system whenever Nintendo has modeled like the next three systems after that
Yeah.
to incorporate this controller.
Yep.
Yeah.
Everyone loves it. We must continue doing it.
we have to incorporate it.
And it was portable. Had the built-in handle
Yeah,
with it.
everyone says the Switch is the first portable console. No, it was the
Okay,
GameCube.
yeah.
You just got the handle in the back and carry it around.
I mean, GameCube was good. I would say, honestly, in my eyes, Nintendo 64.
Yeah,
But I'm just
Yeah.
nostalgic for it.
And 64.
And it was like the meme I sent you guys. It's like, you drop a TV on it, no problem.
No
it's
problem.
fine.
Yep.
You just dust it off, put some cartridges in
They
it.
did this hack of the show, I believe, where they had
Yeah, the most like durable system.
Yeah.
I think it was the PS2, the original Xbox, and the GameCube.
Yeah.
And they like dropped
The TV.
a TV, and I think they dropped the consoles themselves too from like a second floor. Hit it with a sledgehammer. GameCube was the only one that worked still after.
Really?
Yeah.
Pretty sure it was.
And that's crazy because it's a disc
Yeah.
drive. I figured the disc drive would miss, though.
You would think.
That's one of the first ones that. Yeah, that was the first console that Nintendo had. That was a disc.
Mm-hmm.
And then it went disc, and now they're back to the cartridges.
Yep.
Oh, yeah. And well, I guess while we're on the topic of Nintendo and everything, we've been actually pretty much on topic since the beginning. But
Yeah.
I'm gonna go ahead and do a little review here. I brought two controllers with me.
Yay!
These are the Nintendo Switch Pro controller, the official one by Nintendo themselves, and this is an officially licensed Power A Nintendo Switch like Pro controller like remake, pretty much. But there's a few differences. First off, I'll start with the Pro controller itself. It's got HD Rumble. It has the motion controls, and it has an NFC reader built into it, so that you can scan for all those nice, nifty 5 million amiibos that they have for Animal Crossing, because everyone loves their Animal Crossing.
Yeah.
And,
Don't forget to buy your 200 amiibos for
yeah.
them.
But you can scan them with this controller. It is rechargeable. You plug it in. It uses the USB-C, just like
Everything
else Nintendo does, which is good because everything's going to USB-C now. So there's the Switch Pro controller, the official Nintendo one. And then I have the Power A one. The nifty thing about this one, it comes in a lot more designs and everything. You can see this one here is Diablo 3. And the actual Pro controller itself doesn't have that many designs. It has a few special edition ones. There's one for Xenoblade Chronicles 2 and a couple more, but they're all mainly just the black ones. But this right here, the sticks, they all feel about the same. Actually, honestly, I prefer the D-pad on the Power A controller, and it has two programmable buttons on the back, so you can map other buttons to it, so you can on the go. But there's not a whole lot of difference between the two, except for this one does not include the NFC reader. So if you don't really care about amiibos, then you can go for this.
I'm in that group.
And also, it doesn't have the HD Rumble too.
Yeah.
I know the enhanced version of this. I don't think this one's not the enhanced version, but the enhanced version of the wireless ones actually does have the motion controls, whereas this one does not. But I mean, overall, this is a solid controller, and it's about $15 cheaper, I believe. If you look on Amazon, I think you can actually get them from about $35 all the way to about $45
So
on Amazon.
how much are the other ones?
And then the Nintendo Switch Pro controller are about $60.
Ooh.
So there's a big price difference there, but also rechargeable. Not rechargeable. This one uses
Think
batteries.
about those battery prices.
Yeah, you gotta add those
Yeah.
battery prices, and this uses two AA batteries. Gets you about 30 hours of gameplay on two AA's.
Yeah.
So you gotta add, the batteries in. But
Maybe buy you some rechargeable batteries off Amazon too while you're at
yeah,
it.
if you want to do that, you could do that. I mean, you can tell. I'll pass these two around, but
Yeah.
there's a weight difference in the two. I do like the Pro controller better. It just feels more solid to me. This right here, I'm not saying it's cheap at all.
It feels lighter.
Yeah,
by all means.
it's lighter.
It's probably where one supports Rumble and the other one doesn't.
The HD Rumble where it doesn't have that, and it doesn't have the NFC reader.
Yeah,
so that's
so
the
that cuts
weight
down
difference.
weight.
Yeah, but I mean, overall, it's a good controller. I actually had it before I had the Pro controller. I prefer the Pro controller, but this right here is another good option if you do want to save about $15 or so.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, that's
Now,
my
do you-
product reviews.
Do you have batteries in the Diablo one right now?
I do have batteries in the Diablo.
Okay, that's probably why it felt heavier to me when I
Right.
was weighing them earlier.
Yeah, there's not a whole lot of weight difference between the
Yeah.
two, but I mean it's just a slight weight difference. This
Yeah.
one here, but the D-pad on the Diablo one, or I'm sorry, the Power A controller is a better D-pad in my opinion.
Yeah.
But overall, they're both really solid controllers.
Good
And
deal.
really just personal preference if you're going to use the amiibos or not. I actually don't use amiibos, but I just like the feel of the Pro controller better. That's all my Nintendo topics. I have discussed a lot of Nintendo today.
Yeah, there's a mountain of Nintendo.
Nintendo's been popular today.
Yeah.
Really has.
Some of the other stuff I've got, PS5. I know we've been dissing them pretty hard lately as well. I like Sony, I really do, and if I'm playing an RPG, I'm going to prefer Sony over Xbox or Microsoft.
Right.
I just like playing RPGs better on a PlayStation. I don't know why, I just always have. But the PS5, they're hurting. Sony is hurting, and they're trying to do something, I guess, a little bit different this time. When the PS5 releases, they are actually releasing the PS5 Pro in conjunction with just the PS5. just to compete with the Xbox Series X.
I guess that makes sense.
I mean, I guess so.
I think in a way it also gives your consumers more options. Like maybe you don't need like whatever high end specifications that the Pro model has. Maybe you just want like what's going to still look pretty good and have like decent performance. I don't know what are the specs on them right now. It's like
I don't think there's been any specs for the PS5
There
Pro
really hasn't
released.
been many leaked specs at all. I feel like there's been more released for Xbox than
Yeah.
anything.
I think that didn't they officially?
Yeah.
They officially revealed theirs and like, hey, we have 12 teraflops.
Yeah, but
Good.
Sony's just being secretive for whatever means. I don't
They've
know.
been pretty secret the past few years. They did attend E3 last year. They were going to skip out this year, but I mean they don't have to skip out now.
Yeah.
No E3, but they've just been real secretive, and I kind of wonder what they do have, like what they're hiding behind closed doors. Really,
I hope it's good.
I hope it's
Yeah.
good.
For their sake.
maybe
their
the
sake.
Pro's going to go 8K.
Whoa.
I think both of them are.
You
Oh, they're
what?
both going to be
I'm pretty
8K.
sure both are 8K.
Well,
You
that's
know,
going to be
I read an article about this too. It's like most TVs have what they call HDMI 2,
yeah.
but some of with the newer consoles, they're going to be able to support and use HDMI 2.1, which seems like a really dumb way to label that. They should just
Yeah.
run like
3.
3 or just anything like that. But basically, it's the capability to push out 8K graphics. But if you go around and you just talk to people, how many people's got an 8K TV?
Yeah, I don't even have a 4K TV.
Yeah, most people don't even have a 4K. You know, they're just using a smart TV that they got on a Black Friday deal.
Yeah.
But
But honestly, 4K doesn't make a difference if you are more than 10 feet behind the TV. I'm pretty sure it was the optimal viewing range for 4K. After
Yeah.
that, it's just the same as being on 1080p.
but
I might be wrong on that. If I'm wrong, someone correct me. But
it's my understanding that if you buy it and you're worried that it's not going to work with the TV that you do own, it shouldn't be a problem from what I've gathered, because it will still work and it's still going to be HD graphics, but it's not going to be HD graphics as much as it could be.
Mhm.
But really, between the difference in TVs, I mean, it's minor difference.
right.
Right.
It's not like, I'm looking at a 480p video versus, a 4,000 by 2,000.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. So
I mean, if it's something really impressive, it's probably not going to matter. I'm probably going to get like the standard version, unless maybe there's more memory on the Pro model, which that would be
more
like,
than likely that would be the case.
yeah,
They put in a bigger hard drive, and
Yeah.
it might be a little bit faster of a hard drive or something, so that way it accesses memory quicker.
yeah. Like, give me a 10 terabyte hard drive on the Pro model, I'll probably buy it.
Yeah. Each game takes up 1 terabyte.
Yeah.
I mean,
pretty
probably.
You
The-
got to spend 4 days installing it.
As graphically intensive as games are nowadays, and as
Yeah.
much space as they take up, I wouldn't be surprised if we start seeing. I mean, well, of course, once memory gets up higher,
Yeah.
like 1 terabyte games. Going from back when we were younger to now, you never thought you'd see like 1, 2, 3, 27 gigabyte games.
Yeah.
But guess what? That's what you're seeing now. And,
It's super high.
yeah.
Back when 256 megabytes was top of the line.
Yeah.
But tying in their Nintendo PlayStation talk, this was a point I was going to make.
Go ahead.
So the owner that created Pets.com and Toys.com, his name is Greg McLemore. He went to, I guess, an auction for old classic retro games, and
Would you say he was thrift shopping?
yeah, he was
thrift shopping.
McLemore, yeah.
Okay.
He looked good in your granddad's clothes. But anyway, he bought the original prototype of the Nintendo PlayStation.
Oh,
That's right. It's a Nintendo Super NES with an optical drive that they only apparently made 2 games for. It was Punch Out and some like Olympic Stadium game.
okay.
So they only made those 2 games for this as a prototype, and they only made 200 consoles when they prototyped it.
Okay. So how many of those are left?
I have no idea. I couldn't find a number on that, but it said that around 200 are existing now. So, and it was believed that there was around 200 prototype made.
Right.
So I'm not actually sure how many is in existence, but
I mean, they're rare nonetheless.
super
Yeah.
super rare. But this guy, he bought it for $360,000.
Pocket change for someone. who
Exactly.
likes shopping.
He actually outbidded the guy that created the Oculus Rift.
Okay.
Yeah, he won a
Okay.
bid against that guy.
Did he spend all of his Facebook money and he couldn't afford to go any
I
higher?
guess I don't know, man. But he said that his hope is one day he's going to create a retro game museum, and he hopes to display like he's a massive retro game collector. Like he has like all the systems that you can think of. He's got like the rare, hardest to find games that were like discontinued or not widely, published or anything. So he wants to create a museum. That's his hope and dream to, put up video game history. It's like a big time capsule.
Yeah, so I think that would be really great. I think you got to kind of have the trash cans though that are full of the ET games. That reminds me, it was another podcast I was listening to recently.
Okay.
They were talking about the Atari Pac-Man game,
Okay.
and he actually attributed that was probably more so the downfall of Atari than the ET games, despite there being a landfill full of ET games. What he said was, I'll just say what it was. His name's Harrison Smith. He has a podcast called Cinema, CYN. I talk about it several times just because I like it. It's fun.
yeah.
And he really goes in depth on history. But like this game was so hyped because Pac-Man in the arcade was such a
Oh,
big
yeah.
thing at the time. And then you can play it on home console.
Whoa.
It's like how Mortal Kombat was back in the day,
It's on the eShop.
Is that,
Yeah.
is that is that with the live actors or the not live actors?
I guess the live actors.
The one,
original?
yeah, the one for like Sega Genesis.
Yeah, and Super Nintendo. But like that, I can see that being like a big issue because like the stores had to issue like so many refunds and everything for it because they knew how bad it was. Like it didn't look nearly as good as the arcade version. But that's also because, the limitations for a console system were were a lot. It was a lot different back then compared to like what you could get in an arcade. Arcade
yeah.
obviously bigger, so you can have more processing power, have more memory in it.
Mm-hmm.
Small cartridge, not so much.
No, and that was always the limitation of cartridges. And actually, going back to like the Super NES, like Famicom days,
Yeah,
they like within the cartridge, like if you held the Famicom cartridge versus like the US Super NES cartridge, they were actually just a little bit heavier because they had a separate chip that was put inside of the cartridge that contained all of the music files for the game.
wow.
That's why, like for instance, like Castlevania,
Yeah,
if you play it between the two different systems, the music sounds so much better on the Famicom because they just had a larger amount of memory
just dedicated to music.
just dedicated to music on a separate chip that was inside the cartridge.
It's a shame we couldn't get. Yeah,
This is The Witcher 3.
yeah. Basically on an SD card, like essentially, not even much.
Yeah.
It's not much thicker,
Not much thicker
than
than
an
an
SD
SD card, no.
card. So think about the limitations that they had now compared to then. It's insane.
Yeah. And I think back then, like on Super Nintendo, like they could only put, I think it was like 16 megabytes worth of
Yeah.
information on the cartridge. Like it was unreal. And then that changed when they made Legend of Zelda: Link's Awakening. That they upped it. They managed to get 28 megabytes in that cartridge, and it was really pushing the limits.
Yeah.
I love when companies push the limits, though. I really do. Like,
Push it to the limit.
when you're talking about super rare, that actually reminded me. There's a website called superraregames.com, and they'll take some of these digital only releases or some of these like really hard to find games, and they'll release them. I think they're only for Switch, if I'm not mistaken. But it's superraregames.com, and they have some of these really hard to find games that only get released in certain places. Let's see here.
Oh, like how it's like region like it only gets released in certain regions.
It's, at Super Rare Games, we strive to bring collectors to the very best physical content for the Nintendo Switch, so it is Nintendo Switch only. We operate alongside our partners to bring the most exclusive offerings of the very best indie games. So they get these indie game developers that can't really afford to produce cartridge games, and they will, collaborate with them and do a super like limited release of some of these like games that people really enjoy for the indie developers. But yes, it's
I
super,
wondered who did that. Like I saw an advertisement for it. It was like a 3-day sales. Like after this is gone.
Yep.
I'm like that makes a lot of sense.
One of the YouTubers I watch that does a lot of the like Nintendo Switch content, that's beat 'em ups or Woodhawker, he has talked about them several times, and I was just you said Super Rare, and it reminded me of this like limited release, and I'm like I need to go talk about them. But yeah, that's
You're like, I need to.
The
world must know.
The world
Yeah.
must know. SuperRareGames.com. They have some really cool like indie games that usually only get the digital releases. But if you're a collector of games and you want like a physical version of those games, there you go.
Good deal.
So, moving on from games, 'cause I think we've
Have we exhausted that?
not beaten games to death.
I mean, we're not totally away from games right now. There's still at least one more game we have to talk about that has an adaptation coming.
Oh yeah, please do inform us of the said game.
The Last of Us is being. They're
yes.
talking about adapting it into an HBO series. I believe for their Mac service.
Okay.
More than likely, I assume. But I think they're talking about everything that's new that's coming to HBO now. They're talking about, it's going to be the next Game of Thrones. Like, why can't it just be
What kind
its
its
own
own
thing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it's got the HBO stamp on it, so
Right.
everyone's like, okay, well,
They're like, it's good.
it's good. So is Game of
Yeah.
Thrones. No, you leave Game of Thrones alone. Game of Thrones was great for what
You know,
it was.
it's kind of like when companies make MMOs and they're like, "Oh, it's the WoW killer." It's
It's
like,
like it's
why,
not gonna
why
kill
even
WoW.
compete with that? You
Yeah.
know, be your own deal.
It's completely ignorant to try to compete with WoW.
Yeah.
Because that's just the biggest one that they have out there.
Yeah.
But there's not been a lot of information on it yet because it's very early stages of development. But what are your guys' thoughts on this? I'm thinking,
It's a great story. Like I don't know if
Absolutely.
you've played The Last of Us. Amazing story. It's one of the best story-driven games I think that there's been in a while.
yeah.
Um,
Which Naughty Dog, they're kind of become well known
Yes.
for that.
yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I think it'll be as long as they do it correctly, it'll be a great
Wasn't it Naughty
adaptation.
Dog that done it?
Yeah.
It's crazy.
They've been doing really well with those like story-driven games. That to me, I really enjoy a story-driven game. Like I'm Fortnite. It's great for some people. I just cannot get behind it.
There's no story. It's literally jump out of a plane and go kill people. Build something.
Yeah.
There's more so just killing people now. Building stuff is kind of you don't really even get to do that much anymore.
Pretty much. Yeah.
But
There's
yeah,
not a lot of reason to.
No. But yeah.
I wasn't actually sure that Naughty Dog was still in business. I know that
Yeah.
they made the first Crash Bandicoot.
Yeah. Then I think they made Dax and Jackster. Dak and Jackster. Jack and Daxter.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
what it was. So that's one I never played, so I wasn't sure.
And honestly, if it wasn't for them, like
They have made the
making-
Uncharted series too.
Yeah, the Uncharted
Yeah.
series. I think that's what really led them to The Last of Us.
if it wasn't for them making the Crash Bandicoot game, I don't think Sony would have done so well with the PS1.
No.
No,
Crash
because that
was
was
huge.
yeah. Like what other? You can't really name too many other titles from that time. Like Twisted Metal and Metal Gear Solid are the only ones that, and Final Fantasy VII,
Well, Tomb Raider too.
Tomb Raider. Yeah,
That was
so that's
a
like
big
what,
one.
5 games
5 games.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
in general. Though that's probably the only anyone can probably only name about 5 games from any large developer.
Yeah.
We're going to leave out Tony Hawk, Pro Skater. That game defined a generation.
That's true. I forgot. Okay, 6 games. 6 games for that.
It's true. And I would go on a deep dive about Tony Hawk because I had a big, huge research on that not too long ago.
It made us all want to be professional skateboarders at one point.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I tried it, and I could not skateboard.
It
at
did,
all.
but the biggest thing was to say they made you a quality game that actually had a lot of extra content that you
Yes.
could unlock, and
Yeah.
you didn't have to pay for it.
Yeah.
Like today. And
Everything's
and
DLC
what
now.
what was so bad was the downfall of Tony Hawk is Activision. Activision and their greed. We want to push a game out every year of Tony Hawk, is what made that game just drop off the map.
Yeah.
Like basically after 3, they were garbage.
That's kind of looping back around to Nintendo and Pokemon. Sorry, everyone. But looping back around to that's one of their problems that they're having.
Is Activision?
No, not Activision itself, but them trying
I
to
was like,
push out like a Pokemon game like every single year. And there's a release schedule of when the new generations have to come out. because
Is it
there's
still Game
new-
Freak that makes it?
There's 3 different entities: Nintendo, Game Freak, and the Pokemon Company.
Well, see, like,
Game Freak's the one that designs the. They're the one of the the main designers or the main designer of the new games, and they're the ones who come out with they don't really handle the like the mystery dungeon games and stuff like that. But the people that come out with the new generation and stuff like that, that's Game Freak.
well,
That's-
see, it makes me wonder if it's Nintendo that's pushing Game Freak to do it, because that's how it was with the Tony Hawk series. It was Insomnia Games, I think, that made that game,
Yeah.
and it was Activision that was like, you have to do this. And really, like, even like they brought Tony Hawk in for collaboration and everything, and he was backing it. And at the time, like they offered him like, I don't know, it was like $5 million at the time just to sell his part of it out, and he's like, nah, I think I'll just wait and see where it goes.
Yeah.
But it was just so bad because Activision was pulling all the strings and giving all the orders, and it was just really just destroying the companies that were trying to do it.
Yeah.
Let's see, with Pokemon, it's like I was saying, they got out a release schedule. The anime only lasts so long, and they release, when the anime comes out, they only have so long before they have to come up with a new generation. And you've got the card game, the anime, and merchandise that really push the release of a new generation, because it's like once they're running out of that, they got to release another generation to keep it going. So that's where everything is there.
You would just think off of the merchandise and the royalties and everything that they would be fine.
They are, but once it starts to get stagnant, they want, of course, new Pokemon
Yeah.
for more people to enjoy. So that's kind of where they're at there, and that a lot of fans are mad because they feel like games haven't been up to par.
Yeah.
And which is understandable, but
Every franchise that is big, you're going to have your missteps. Like one of the, as I said, a second ago, it's like talking about Metal Gear Solid. That's one of the big ones of PlayStation. But basically the main titles were the only ones that people really enjoyed. Like, though I thought the Acid games for PSP were actually pretty good for a card turn-based strategy game.
Yeah.
Not bad. But like then you have like one of the most recent iterations, Metal Gear Survive, which was like, in a way it was Fortnite, but in the Metal Gear world. But also one of those that relied heavily on microtransactions.
I think microtransactions are really killing.
They really are.
certain games.
Because people, I've heard actually good things about the latest Star Wars Battlefront game. But because it was so heavy on microtransactions, especially when it was released, nobody played it.
Turns a lot of people off with microtransactions.
Yeah. If I'm going to have a microtransaction, like any kind of transaction, not necessarily micro, give me some DLC that's going to add to the story.
Yeah.
That's what I want.
I like DLC that expands the game, not just, oh, here's DLC. Well, what does it give me? Oh, you have new equipment.
Yeah. That
Yeah.
affects nothing.
And I would say one company that really pulls that off well, and it's the underdog in this whole story, is Gearbox, which makes Borderlands.
Yeah.
Yes.
I don't know if you guys play it. I was a big fan of 1 and 2. I haven't bought 3, unfortunately, but yeah, like I was reading an article not too long ago that Gearbox had released it's a paid DLC on Steam, but it adds I think it was like 20 hours of story
Yeah.
onto the game, and it's got more story, more weapons for you to collect, and I was like, well, and usually their stuff's not too expensive anyway.
Yeah.
Like most of the time, like when Borderlands goes on sale, you can pick it up for like $15 or something, and then
Yeah.
their DLC goes on sale and you can get it for like $6.
See, I can get behind that. Like
Yeah.
when Mass Effect came out, and they had, the DLC add quite a bit to the campaign,
Yeah.
and I'm fine with stuff like that. We got lost in the weeds here.
We
The
did.
Last of Us TV show.
Yep.
I'm lost on this because unfortunately I've never played this game.
So it's basically like you're a guy escorting this girl in the essentially zombie apocalypse. She could hold the cure for it, so you got to take her on a cross-country road trip. I think where do you start out at? Like,
I don't even remember
This sounds like Telltale Walking Dead.
kind of, but like
But
more
better.
better graphics.
Well, yeah, and it's not as a story novel,
Yeah,
but you just push buttons.
I think like the idea is you have to get her to like Portland or no Seattle.
Something like
It's
that.
it's I think it's like the Northwest when you start out on like the Northeast. So you're obviously going to face challenges with it. But I think what they should do with this, don't adapt that story. The Last of Us is a pretty perfect story on its own. Let people experience that. And if you're going to do a TV series based on that world, just do a separate story of it. There's so many characters in there you can tell about. Like do something on the Fireflies. Do something on like I think there was his brother or something that was one of the other characters. Do that story. Do like what they did with Watchmen. Let the original content stand on its own and then just expand the universe.
I
That
want
would
to
be
agree,
fantastic.
but disagree because if people have never played it like myself,
Right.
then when you come to it, you're lost because you don't know who the characters are, you don't know any of the backstory, you don't know what's going on.
But the story's available to be accessed.
Well, that's true, but no. When it comes back to it, I think we had this talk that nobody really likes to sit and read through stuff, and they don't really want to. Like they either want to play this game or they just don't know.
Yeah.
Well,
That's fair.
I get both points. I know, it would be great if they did do like a side story, but they're going to go the bread and butter. They're going to go
Yeah, that's
with
true.
what made it.
Yeah.
And it doesn't make them the bad guy.
No, it does. It makes
just-
it practical for
Right.
them. But like, in a way, like the characters themselves are so iconic. Like, how do you find the person that's going to fit that role? That's the problem that they've had with the Uncharted movie being in development.
Keanu Reeves,
Can I reach in? Every single role.
Just
Keanu
everything.
Reeves.
Like,
just
yeah.
everything. Keanu Reeves.
Yeah.
Speaking of roles, though, so Christian Bell.
Oh, I thought we were going to talk about a nice roll from put some butter on it. something
No,
like that.
not that kind of role, Kevin. Not that kind of role.
We're low carb right now. So.
Low carb
Yeah.
roles.
Yeah. So yeah, Christian Bale.
Christian
is,
Bell's going to be the villain in Thor 4.
Yeah.
I know there's rumors flying around of who he's actually going to be, but I don't think it's been officially.
I just think
released.
Christian Bale, Adam Warlock. I've seen that. I don't know if you guys seen that.
No.
I haven't seen that one. One that I've heard is that, or at least like what they think would be a good role for him, is playing Dario Agger, who is the Minotaur in the Thor comics. He's
Okay.
been he's like the president of Roxxon, which
Okay.
is the big. It's essentially supposed to be like a combination of like Exxon and Enron. They're like this giant like evil company.
Exxon.
Yeah.
Okay.
So here we have if you can see it on your screen right now,
Yeah.
the Minotaur behind him. He's kind of like the Hulk, but becomes a giant Minotaur.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and considering that they're having Jane Foster in here again as probably going to introduce her as the female Thor,
Thor, yeah.
like how she was in the comics. The Minotaur played a very big role in that run.
Okay.
He was pretty much a primary antagonist, and then now he's an antagonist of Hulk. So
Makes sense. Do you think the Guardians of the Galaxy are going to be in it? Since Thor did leave with.
I think we're probably going to get some kind of explanation
They're
for
just
it.
going to drop him off it.
what I'm picturing for like the third movie and also of Guardians of the Galaxy and like for somewhere to put into Thor 4 is there is going to be a Rocky style fitness montage where Thor gets back into shape along with
He's gonna have to.
Star-Lord, and then he's just going to go on to his own adventure. It's like Rocket's going to be the one training them both, and then it's going to be like that Apollo or the Apollo and Rocky scene or whatever.
I
And
can see it.
then like Thor's just like, all right, see you guys. That's it.
Either that or Star Lord's going to just leave him. Like they're going to stop somewhere.
Oh, they're totally going to get space drunk, and he's just going to
he's
leave
gonna
him.
be like, oh, Thor just took off on his own again. And
Yeah, both of them are very likely.
well, that's all I've got. What's some points for you all?
I just had a couple of things I wanted to get on real quick. It's kind of going with the comic book talk as well.
Okay.
It seems to be confirmed that Mark Ruffalo will return as the Hulk for the Disney Plus's She-Hulk series, which makes sense because her origins are very much tied to the regular Hulk because she gets injured and then he has to give her a blood transfusion, which then allows her to become the Hulk.
Oh,
Makes
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, I really like Mark Ruffalo in the role of Hulk, so it's nice to have him back.
Yeah, I like him as the Hulk. I know there's been some conflict over the Professor Hulk and
Yeah.
all of that, but
I love that. That was great.
Yeah.
I was really expecting him to get mad when they were in the diner and eating and everything, and he's like, "I want to take a picture." And
It's like, take the picture.
take the picture. I was really expecting him to Hulk out there.
Yeah. In a way, like there were some moments in Endgame where he was actually scarier because he was in control.
Yeah.
Especially when he goes to see Thor, and Thor is just very much out of it, and he's like, "Don't say that name," talking about Thanos, and Hulk just like very calmly takes his hand off. He's like, "I'm going to ask you not to touch me again," because if Thor put his hands on him again, Thor would be dead.
Yeah, that Thor was not in shape to be
No.
fighting the Hulk.
Not at all.
The Big Lebowski.
Yeah,
Thor.
big-
Well, big Thorbowski.
Thor
Yeah,
Bowski.
yeah.
And the only other thing that I really had on this list is so last week we talked about DC Comics 5G initiative, how it's supposedly going to be a reboot once again of their comics. At a recent, I think, comic panel, Jim Lee, the current publisher of DC Comics, said it's not going to be a reboot. It is just going to be like, what's the next generation? It's like the Silver Age, that was back in like World War II. It's just the new generation of heroes. So we're going to get supposedly Superman's son is going to take over as Superman at the end of it. Like that's going to be like the capstone of all this. I think that's the right way to go with it, but also there are certain characters that kind of lend themselves to a legacy, but some that don't really need to be. Like, can you really see anyone else? We have had different Batmen, but can you really see anyone else other than Bruce Wayne wearing that cowl? Like, as a longevity character.
Not unless we're in the future and we have like
Batman Beyond?
Beyond.
Well, that's a good example of it.
That's about the only other.
But in a world where Bruce Wayne is still alive,
If he's still alive, or still alive and able, because I know,
Yeah.
in Batman Beyond he really couldn't.
Yeah.
He was the mentor, but
he was not capable of fighting anymore. And then we have, Superman. Clark Kent himself is very much that Superman. But I guess to have his son take on the role, that makes more sense. Like,
like we were talking before, we started about that's how like where Dragon Ball Z is, or Dragon Ball, or whatever you want to call the series. It's in Super right now, but you have Goku, and everyone loves Goku. But when is Goku going to stop, and who's going to take over the mantle? Because Gohan, they really nerfed him in Super. He's smart and he's strong, but he's just is not as strong as other characters.
right.
And we were talking about it's really a lot to deal with. He's cocky, and Goten. I mean, they could go with him, but right now he's still just a kid and nowhere near trained. He's pretty weak right now.
Go Tinks.
Yeah, go Tinks. Yeah. He's pretty weak right now as is. They've nerfed even like young Trunks and everything. He just seems like they're not going to carry on the series. They're just going to keep going with Goku and Vegeta, which I mean, it doesn't really seem like they've aged much in
Yeah.
Super, but it doesn't take.
I think that does a disservice to the rest of the characters overall to do
Yeah.
something like
Yeah.
that. I think Akira Toriyama said that he had intentions of having Gohan become the protagonist, and then he's like, "Well, writing Gohan's kind of boring." That's your fault as a writer at that point. If you can't make
Yeah.
your character interesting, that's on you.
The most interesting character in the whole Dragon Ball series is Vegeta, hands down.
Oh, absolutely.
Vegeta is the best character, has the best character development.
I really want to see him actually defeat a big bad for once.
Other two, he right now in the manga and everything, he's training on Yardrat, which is where Goku learned the transmission
Oh,
stuff.
nice.
And there's a big bad that apparently like no one can defeat right now. I can't remember the exact name, but yeah, it's that's where Vegeta's training. He's got to learn. He's learning all kinds of different techniques, and we'll see how that goes. And Goku's training with one of the angels, not Whis, but another one of the angels in a like hyperbolic time chamber type deal, and yeah.
There's plenty of content more for the anime then.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they have to. It seems
It's
like
been rumored for forever.
Yeah, you can't leave off with like the Tournament of Power, which the real heroes in Tournament of Power was 17,
Yeah.
which that brought him up. 17's awesome. I love 17. I've always liked 17, but they really brought 17 up to
That cemented it.
yeah.
Yeah. What have you got for us, Corey?
Yeah.
I mean, I just got a bunch of old boring tech news. Nothing.
I've been having tech problems all week, man, so I could use some tech news.
Well, okay, so I'll start it off, I guess, with Microsoft. You know, everybody's got a Microsoft computer at their house, probably.
Yep, mine doesn't work right now.
Yeah, I know. We've walked through this a little
Yeah.
bit. So recently, you know, there was a article maybe 3 days ago that they had released a update. And if you're like me, you're scared to probably turn your computer on because you don't want it to download this update.
Yeah.
So I read it's the update, and I'll have to read this number. It's KB4535996. So this particular update can really mess your system up bad. Some people have reported that their system has went back to the Windows Millennium days, and it's like blue screen of death. Like
Sounds right.
instantly.
My computer's still running. I've not turned mine off for some days, so
You might not want to restart it.
I'm not going to.
So, yeah, it's saying like when you're booting your computer up,
Mhm.
it takes you to the login screen, which is normal for Windows. But then when you try to, get off of that screen and log in, it blue screens.
Oh,
Yeah.
God.
So, and there's no workaround on this. The only way you can do it is you have to go into like the recovery options and roll your computer back and try to uninstall the update. Other people have reported like their sound drivers do not work anymore. They
Yeah.
have absolutely no sound, cannot make it work. They've uninstalled drivers, rolled drivers back, can't make it work. And then other people have reported problems with like keyboard and mouse, like just peripherals,
Yeah.
that they either aren't working right or like the real, like you'll type and nothing happens, and then 10 seconds later it goes.
So this is why people switch to Apple.
So apparently this update's kind of bad. I don't know if there's a fix in the works. I hope there is because apparently this
Yeah.
is very devastating.
Now, is this the most recent update that I had talked about that had made my Wi-Fi driver not work?
No,
Oh God, it got worse. Okay.
it gets worse. That particular update, I think it was really just with your Wi-Fi card in particular
Yeah.
that it's incompatible with that particular update.
Okay.
But it seems like with Windows Update, there's always something that goes wrong, and I mean, it might not be a problem for everybody because you have different makes of motherboards and processors
Yeah.
and that kind of stuff, and it might only affect a certain group of components. It might not affect everybody equally. So, but anyway, that update, I would very much be beware of it.
Yeah.
Because it may cause you a lot of headache, and trying to get that fixed when you can't actually get into Windows,
Makes it more
even through
frustrating.
safe mode, can be very, very difficult if you're not tech savvy.
Yeah. So if you can turn off your automatic updates, just go ahead and do that.
Yeah, I would highly suggest you download the updates, but then check and see which updates it is.
Yeah.
But I would very much not install that particular one. There has been other updates. I know that there was one that came out like as of yesterday for like Microsoft Defender, which is it's on there. You can't get rid of it. And there's a couple other security updates and stability fixes, but it's nothing. I don't think that fixed this particular update yet.
Yeah.
So I would highly disregard that one for at least another week or two until I
they
was
get a
for
fix
sure.
for it.
Yeah. Until they have another update coming.
Yeah, and then I'd say that's the stability fix for this particular update, and it's that update.
Yeah.
Don't you just love Windows? Aren't they just great?
Yeah. I've got to figure out what's wrong with mine. I can't even power it on right now. The power comes on, it doesn't boot up. Like the fans are running.
That sounds like motherboard.
The motherboard.
Sounds like motherboard.
We're gonna have to talk about this. I'm gonna need your help.
Okay, so anyway. My next, I guess, topic, it actually covers two different things, but it's all by the same company. So while I feel like through the years, AMD has always taken a back seat to NVIDIA and Intel. it seems like those two companies always pushed out a superior product that was more power efficient. And, you know, it was just overall better when you compared the side by side of the two. But now I think that AMD might be giving them a run for their money, because I was looking through some stuff, and they have made a new processor, which has a very hefty price tag on it. It's running around $3,600
Just for the processor.
just
alone.
for the processor alone, nothing else,
Yeah.
nothing attached to it. But back in the day, you know, if you were a gamer in the mid 2000s there, you probably remember the game Crysis. Crysis came out in
I
2007.
remember it came out for the PS3 and PC.
It was a very hardware demanding game, extremely. Like, most PCs could barely handle it, and if they could handle it, they couldn't run it full frame.
Right.
So, this particular processor, in a demonstration that they did, could actually run Crysis with no graphics processing card.
Just
The processor itself could run the game at a somewhat playable scale, you know, pushing like 15 to 20 frames, which is crazy just
Yeah.
for a processor by itself in your computer to
no
be
video
able to,
card.
you know, it was kind of, laggy and jumpy and stuff, but just the raw processing power to this. It's
That's
just-
impressive.
It's unreal. It's overkill. It's extremely overkill. Like, you could buy this processor and probably not need a new processor for like 15 years.
Might be what I need to get for some of
I
my
mean,
editing.
for that price tag, that's more.
For editing, I would really recommend one of these.
Yeah, that's getting ready to get. I'm pretty fed up with Microsoft at this point. Probably gonna have to switch.
Not necessarily MacBook, or MacBook Pro, but
Just anything
just
Apple.
Any Mac,
Yeah.
really.
But the second bit of news that they come out with was they recently released a graphics card, and I can't remember the name on the graphics card. I'm drawing a blank on this.
Is it one of the Ryzen ones? Or
It is the Ryzen one. It's like R2N something. I can't remember the actual name. But this card runs at 50% more efficiency than a NVIDIA RTX 2080, watt for watt.
Yeah.
And I know that might be all lingo and gibberish, but the fact is that it can efficiently run your games way more ahead of the NVIDIA card.
Well, it looks like we're about to lose signal here.
I see us.
Our bit rate is dropping fast. So.
let's see.
Should I take a break? Or?
No.
Okay.
Keep going until we have to end it.
Okay. So anyway, yeah, the card itself, they changed the cooling. Most of your cards that you buy, they have what they call the blower model type
Right.
fan, that it spins, but as demand picks up, it blows harder.
Yeah.
And in a smaller case, it's actually okay because your smaller cases move air out quicker. But if you have a larger case, then you're just filling your case full of hot air, which causes heat problems for the other things in the case with it.
Right.
But what this card in particular does is they went to what they call a dual axle or triple axle type fan. And instead of it blowing, what it does is it continually supplies the chassis with air, so that way the cooling is always, consistent. It's not like, okay, my card's getting hot.
Yeah.
It's always running the cooling so that way it never gets beyond a certain point. The fans don't speed up, they don't slow down. It just runs consistently. And because of that, it can run more quietly. So you don't have this big loud graphics card beside of you in your tower, making all kinds of noise.
Yeah.
So
That's always a help. You want less noise
Yeah.
going on with something like that.
And in that aspect, because your components are running cooler, it does make them more efficient. So the possibility to even do overclocking, and I mean, it's still an option on the table with this card, just because it can run cooler. But in that same aspect, you'd probably have to tweak the card itself so that way the cooling compensates for the overclock.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But either way, the fact that it can pretty much outperform RTX 2080 right now is pretty good because I mean that's kind of like the marketed card right now.
Yeah, that's
I
like the
think-
top of the line.
Well, it's not top. I think there's a 3080 or something like
Okay.
that. Is that sound familiar to you?
I think so. I've got
Like there's one step above that, but right now, you know, it's competing very well with the $800 graphics card.
the the Ryzen 9 3950X. Is that the one you're talking about?
For the Threadripper,
Oh no, the Threadripper. That's the
the Ryzen, I can't remember.
yeah. I've got a Ryzen 7 in my desktop. I like it. I really do like it. It runs really smooth, pretty quiet. I don't really have any complaints with it so far. But yeah, I saw the Threadripper on here. That's your big $3,600
Yeah, it's
processor. Actually, I think it's like 3,800 on Newegg or 3,900 on Newegg.
That's what everybody needs.
That's what everyone needs.
Go out today and pick it up.
Yep. Pick it up on
It is Taxmas.
Taxmas. Yep.
Yeah.
Screw that new car. Go get you a.
You got bills to pay? Not anymore.
Not anymore.
Now you need a graphics card.
No, that's not even a graphics card. That's just the
That's
processor.
why it is just the processor. Sorry.
Everyone needs a processor. You'll never have to upgrade.
Yeah.
That's true. I mean, you really wouldn't. Like in comparison, like right now the leading Intel card has like 18 cores. That Threadripper has 64 cores. Like,
Wow.
it's, I mean, that's a pretty big
It's a
difference.
beast.
That's a huge difference.
Huge.
It's huge.
But I guess with that out of the way, and is there any fan questions? I don't know if we have any viewers right now. I know we were dropping down there.
No, we got a few. No fan questions currently.
No
that I
fan
can see.
questions.
I agree with Larry Cross. He says Linux is so much better if Windows, or it's so much better than Windows. It's just, it is a problem when if you want a game, a Linux really isn't a gaming PC.
Right.
It's more modeled and designed for business needs.
Yeah.
And in that aspect, it's great. But if you want to play games on it, it is a struggle bus to get them to work properly or run right.
Yeah.
That's why I don't game on my Mac. That's just for business and podcast only. But for editing though, I would suggest looking into a Mac.
Yeah, I think I'm probably gonna have to switch over at some point once I find steady employment again.
Yeah,
Put your $25,000 PC in your $10,000 home.
there you go.
That's generous. Like,
I mean, yeah. That's similar to the let's go buy an Escalade and
yeah,
live in a shack.
that's yeah. Like I'd probably live more comfortably in the Escalade.
Yeah. If I bought an Escalade, I would just have to live in it because it would be as much
Yeah.
as a house payment.
Oh yeah,
just buy an RV.
newer ones especially.
Yeah,
We're looking at like 80,000 plus for one. Everyone needs to spend $80,000 on a vehicle. I wish I had $80,000 to spend on a vehicle. I wouldn't spend it on a vehicle.
I was watching this video yesterday. It was a guy talking about how he was planning on getting financially independent in the next decade, and then he bought a $15,000 camera, $40,000 new car, $20,000 Mac Pro.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Plus, there's an
What was he
$8,000
going to-
monitor.
What was he going to do with all of said equipment that he bought? 'Cause
he's
I mean, he
he's a
become-
filmmaker,
He could
I
become
guess.
financially independent with
Yeah,
all
I
that.
guess.
Like private sector?
Yeah. Like, it must be,
Auditions?
have to be very
or-
private sector. Be honest, the only thing I really know he does is YouTube. That's the only thing I see him on.
I mean, YouTube can make some money. It's
Yeah,
just
PewDiePie, you know. Hey, Binging with Babish, he just bought a house in New York, so.
New York. That's an expensive place to live too.
It's crazy. You look at, like, there is some 8-year-old YouTuber that he just does product reviews.
Right,
And he makes
Ryan.
like $26 million a year or something.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, why can't I be this kid? Why couldn't I be popular?
Or you're older than 8.
That's true. That's true.
We just all like dress like that kid from Smash Brothers.
Ness.
Yeah.
God, I hate Ness.
And then we'll do product reviews dressed like that. Like we're gonna 31 Jump Street.
We're gonna draw a new crowd of people, I think, if we do that, Kevin.
Yeah, it's gonna be like
Might have to put it on some different platform than YouTube.
We're gonna be like, hey, I'm 8, he's 10, and he's 7.
Yeah.
And everybody's gonna be like, there's no way that guy's 10.
Like full beards out here.
And I'll be like, well,
Drank a lot of milk that was full of hormones.
yeah, this is a medical condition.
You ever watch that movie Jack with Rob Williams? That's what I got. I'm Benjamin Button in reverse, okay?
Yeah, I'm counting down.
Yeah.
But I guess that'll be it for this week's show. Thank
Yep.
you all for joining us.
Yep.
Until next time.
Peace out.